Hey Patrick, what's up, man? Lean, what's going on, man? Good to see you guys. Patrick, congrats on that half marathon. I think you said you ran like 130s, low 130s. That's definitely a step in the right direction, man. Great job. It's not easy to run a half at 13 miles at 6:52 ish, 6:50s pace. So awesome work, man. Just know, I mean, as soon as you do under sub 130 one time, man, you can do it for two. You can get under 3 hours. It's just one step at a time. It's hard to do it for 13, but man, once it's done, you've already done it in your head. You've already done it physically. You've already done it mentally. Now it's just a matter of doing it both, back to back. Hey, King J, good to see you. Marian, King J, hope you're doing well. I went to ask which one is better, Alpha Fly 3 or Vaporfly 3 as a 10K run. Thanks. Um, I can't answer that, to be honest, because the Vaporfly 3 I don't have yet, but I ordered a pair of Asics, the Asics, not the Super Blast, the Asics Super Blast, and they didn't have it. They sent me a Roadrunner Sports sent me a notification that they didn't have it in stock, and for me to call them tomorrow, and I'm going to actually get the Vaporfly 3s, but I can tell you from the Alpha Fly 3s, I've only worn them once. I have them. I'm going to wear them in a half that I'm running next month, and then obviously in Valencia. But the Alpha Fly 3s, in my opinion, are like pogo sticks. They're ridiculous. It's amazing that those shoes aren't banned, but it's good in the fact that it can help you um, it can help you recover quicker from your efforts. So I definitely would recommend the Alpha Fly 3s for sure. But I heard the Vaporfly 3s are awesome as well. So like I said, I'm going to swap out those Asics Super Blast that I got, which are a great shoe too. But I'm looking more for a faster, not so much a faster shoe, a lighter trainer, more toward like faster for my faster long runs. But the Asics Superflies or the Asics Super Blast is an amazing shoe, and the Nova Blast, which I currently am training in right now, those shoes are really great for cushion and for training, long training runs as well as tempo runs. Okay, my bad, Patrick. You're still training for it. Okay, gotcha, man. Yeah. Half is October 19th. Yeah. What's your whole shoe rotation? Um, Well, like I was saying earlier, I got the Nova Blast right now. I'm training in the Asics. I really like those shoes, the Nova Blast and the Super Blast. Um, and then for faster runs, for like shorter tempo runs or longer tempo runs, I'm wearing the Nike Street Flies currently, but I'm going to get the Vaporfly 3s, swap out with the Super Blast because Roadrunner Sports, as I mentioned earlier, when I ordered them, they said they had them in stock, but they don't. So now I have to swap those out. So I'm going to get the Vaporfly 3. So, but that will be only for faster long runs and tempo runs. And then obviously I'll wear the Nova Blast for training shoes, and then I'll probably still get the Super Blast shoes, Asics Super Blast for training as well. Yeah, Marianne, I saw Ingebrigtsen's 3000. That was absolutely insane, absolutely incredible. But when you see a guy that can run a 326 for 1,500 meters, 754 for 2 miles, I mean, it was just a matter of time that somebody was going to step up. And it only took almost 30 years for somebody to break Daniel Komen's 720. So respect to Daniel Komen for being able to run that quick with no pacing lights. I'd say the advanced shoes on the track, but I don't think the spikes really make that. I mean, I have not the what's the name of the shoe? I have the long distance spike that's supposedly a super spike for my track workouts, and it just feels like any other track spike. I do think that the advanced shoe technology does have some form of advantage over the roads, because it does. You feel like with the Alpha Fly 3s, when your foot strikes the ground, it kind of pushes you forward. And so there is a small amount of help there. But again, if you're not doing enough anaerobic work and you're not putting in the mileage and the volume, no so-called super shoe is going to do anything for you. I mean, it's just the athlete has to be prepared. But if you're going to run a race like Patrick's coming up, and my bad again, Patrick, with mixing you up with the other athlete, but when you're running these longer races, or if you're training higher volume and you're doing longer runs, to have those shoes on your feet to help you to recover, not just the racing, but to help you recover faster, that is a huge advantage. But I don't think there's a much advantage of track spikes compared to what I've worn in the past. But yeah, I saw his record. It was amazing. I think if he can run, that's 7:17. That's like 7:48 for 2 miles. If he would have ran another, 218 meters at that same exact pace, he would have ran 7:48. So, I think he's definitely in the shape now, currently, to definitely break the 5,000 meter world record. He's run 12:48. He's not that far off, and he did that 3 years ago. So, Lean, on top of my usual 5K training, I'm doing a session of 400 meter sprint training. Will this help my 5K, or is the 400 meter and 5K so far apart that I will have no effect? No, I mean, I definitely think, Lean, working on 400 meter sprints is going to help you over a 5K distance. I mean, the more you can work on your leg speed gradually, because again, those 400 meter reps are such that's at VO2 max effort. You're closing in on max heart rate, huge amounts of lactic acid, so much you can't clear it faster than it's building up. So, we have to take those breaks. And obviously you're doing 400 meter sprint training at significantly faster than your 5K race pace. So that's going to help you improve that lactate tolerance, your ability to be able to sustain 5K pace. So I do think that doing those sessions, those 400 meter sprint training sessions, will definitely help you out. Justin, Justin, King J, Fit 27. Thanks everybody for jumping on here. I appreciate you guys. Any questions as well? Justin, hi man. Hey man, how's it going? I'm running a 5:23 mile, okay, and I want to run my sub 5 by the end of the year. I'm running cross country to get into that sub 5. Do you have any tips? Well, I can tell you for sure, running cross will definitely help you as you transition into going into your track season after cross season. But if you can run a 5:23 mile, I think running a sub 5 by the end of this year is still very doable. It's just a matter of you obviously building on your stamina, continuing to work on, building that, doing your long runs, working on your speed, and also making sure that you're being very strategic in that race, because in the mile, if you go out too quick in the first 400 to 600 meters, it can really ruin your time. When I was in high school, I would go out, I had this crazy idea that I was going to break a 4-minute 1600 when I was in high school. So I would always go out at 60 seconds through the first 400 meters. Looking back, you could always say, well, I wish I would have done this or that different. I mean, if I would have went out and say 67 instead of going out that quick in 60, maybe I would have ran like 416, 417 instead of leaving high school with a 425. So you have to be, breaking 5 minutes really is about your energy conservation, being as relaxed as you can, because it's over in four laps, and not getting too hyped up. I say this from my own mistakes. Don't get too hyped up in the first 400 meters or even the first 800 meters. Remember, you can sprint all out. You can practically sprint all out the first 200 meters of any distance, whether it's a mile or a marathon, and you're not going to build up any lactic acid. So it is important to get out aggressive, but just don't go too anaerobic that you cost yourself your goal time because you were getting too hyped up with somebody else's race. Focus on your race. Run in lane 1 is the entire distance if you can. Don't run any further than you need to. But I think going out and say like 233 to 234 the first 800 meters, and then coming back with a negative split, running in like a 224, 225 second 800 meter, that will get you that sub 5 minute 1600 you're aiming for. And cross country it's just going to make you so much more strong because again, you're running 3.1 miles. How much easier is a mile or 1600 meters, 9 meters short of a mile, give or take? I mean, it's the same thing. How much stronger are you going to be because you did that? Because you focused on building your stamina and your strength with these longer runs and competing in cross country. So that's my advice. Just don't try to win that race in the first 400, 600 meters of the race. Great job, man. Run 5:23. That's not slow at all. You have to be in great shape to even run a 5:23 miles. So very well done. King J, but I'm not marathon runner. Can 10K run use? Yeah, King J. Yeah, you can use the Alpha Fly 3s even on the 10K. You don't need to be that particular shoe is great for whether you're running a 5K, 10K on the roads up to the marathon. I think those shoes are really, really good for any distance from, like I said, 5K on the roads up to the marathon. So yeah, you're fine. Fit 27. Hey coach, what do you think about tempo runs for short distances like 10K? I'm training for a sub 32 10K and wondering if 30 to 40 minute tempo at half marathon pace could be beneficial Kenyan style. Yeah, absolutely can. Yeah. As a 10K athlete, I think getting, 5 to 6 miles in length, 30, 40 minutes is solid at tempo effort. Remember, tempo effort is about 10 seconds slower than your AT pace or your anaerobic threshold pace. So anaerobic threshold, you're running right around 90 to 92, 88 to 92% of max heart rate. Tempo run pace, tempo effort is a little bit slower than anaerobic threshold effort. So yeah, I think running at 10K pace or running at tempo pace for 30 to 40 minutes is definitely going to make you much more capable and fit, physically fit, mentally tough to run a sub 32 10K. Yeah. Patrick, yeah, Super Blast are extremely popular. They already released them two times and sell. Oh yeah, that's another thing. The Super Blast, yeah, they're hard to find. Every search I did online for my size, I have 11 and a half shoe size. All of them were sold out. And I went to Roadrunner Sports and they had them. At least they showed it on their website that they had them. And then they sent me a message that they don't have them. So, and that I, give them a call tomorrow and they do a swap out for me. So, I had like a $50 VIP, I don't know, gift card or something that was on there because I bought a few other shoes off their website. And so that helped out with the price. So I know they have the Vaporfly 2s, the Nike Vaporfly 2s and 3s. I'm going to get one of those, either one of them for the faster stuff. Yeah. Marian, coach, just watched Ingebrigtsen 3,000 meter world record running at really fast pace and so relaxed. Incredible to see him going for all the world records. Yeah, it's insane how relaxed he does look. Obviously that guy's been running since he was a little kid, probably around, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old. And he's been fully committed to excellence. So it's not a shock whatsoever to see him running so strong. And even in the Olympics, the fact that he went out 54.8 the first 400 meters and still ran 3:28, and those guys had to do everything they could to outrun him. It's very hard to beat that guy, and it doesn't matter. Even if they run fast, he still, I remember when he ran his 12:48, everybody in that race went out really quick as well. And then you see them going much more strategic in these championship races. And it's even more difficult to beat the guy because, again, he's got so much speed and he just sits back and lets everybody else pace. The folks that beat that guy, they have to be at the very best they can be in order to get him. Few runners can run. Well, hardly anybody can run as fast as he is. Edward sick during taper and had to make adjustments. Resting heart rate increased and heart rate volume shot down. Heart rate volume. did some easy, shorter runs, but didn't feel too well, almost recovered and have a week till race. Ever deal with this? Yeah, I have. Feels like I lost all my fitness, but I feel it's all mental and body playing tricks. Yeah, I think right now, your best bet is to make sure you hydrate well, get as much fluid as you can, and get as much sleep as you can, and do the best you can to just know that because you're coming off of sickness, and even with a taper and the coming off sickness, your body's going to feel a little bit out of whack anyways. Mentally and physically, you're going to feel a little bit off. But just go out there, your next race that's coming up here, just give it your best shot, but don't, don't get too upset if it doesn't go perfectly. Just know that, hey, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to get a great workout. I'm going to get through this. And then after this race, I'm going to recharge, take a little break, and then build back up again. And again, most importantly, you'll be healed up, you'll be feeling better. And your next race after this, especially after this, is going to feel much better. You're going to be in a much better place. But yeah, as of right now, good, you're doing a taper, but make sure you hydrate well, because obviously when you're sick, very easy to get dehydrated. And just get some good food in you, and get as much rest as you can as well. So let's see. Fit20 said, hey coach, what's your opinion on continuous tempo runs, 34 minutes for 10K races? Let me see. I think this was your question you asked earlier here about the 10K. Yeah, like I mentioned, at 30 to 40 minutes of tempo effort, those types of tempo runs will definitely help build your overall fitness, your stamina. And if the Kenyans do that type of training, even for shorter distances than 42K, I'm trying to run, sub 32. Yeah, like I said earlier, I mean, I just think that tempo runs definitely are great, because again, it forces you to run for longer periods of time at a higher heart rate. You're in discomfort, so it's not like you're going out and running easy. There's obviously time and a place for running easy, and running easy is still very critical to run faster, because you still got to build that endurance, and you still got to be able to recover from the workouts you're throwing at yourself. But I think in order to break a sub 32 10K, which is extremely quick, you have to have that tempo run every week or every other week, and making sure that, again, you're building your stamina and building your strength, working on your speed, working on the long runs. But I think you're in a good place there if you're doing those types of workouts, going for a sub 32. Patrick, back to the super shoes. I've heard some people say they're not good to do long runs in, because they assist too much with the muscles and they become weak, but I see Kenyans training in them. Yeah, I actually personally have not yet done any of my long runs in super shoes. I don't care. I mean, like I said, it's like the faster long runs, even when I was at my peak, when I broke 220, when I broke 227 for the marathon, I was doing my faster long runs in lightweight racing flats for my faster long runs, not my easier long runs. I'd wear trainers. This past week, not this weekend, but last weekend, I did, or 2 weeks ago, I was running like low sixes for about 15 miles. It was like 6:20's pace. And I was wearing the Nova Blast shoes, which is the trainers. But yeah, I think that the Kenyans, and then obviously if you look at Clayton Young and Connor Mance, Clayton Young's got a great YouTube channel. He's only got about 19 videos on his channel, but basically it's like they did a weekly, bi-week, or every week session going into the Paris Olympics. And you see both those guys, they're wearing, Clayton was wearing the ASICS Metaspeed pair of shoes, which I had recently. I sent them back. Kind of wish I didn't, because again, those shoes would have been really good for the faster long runs. But I chose to send those back. Wish I wouldn't have now. But But again, that's why I'm going to eventually get those Vaporfly 3s. I think there is a time and place for them. And again, every athlete is different. Some athletes are going to work very well with just wearing either regular lightweight racing shoes or wearing lightweight trainers. But yeah, a lot of the Kenyans do wear the Vaporfly 3s. They wear the AlphaFly 3s, the ASICS Meta Speeds. You'll see them all doing longer runs in those types of shoes because, again, for many runners, it helps them recover. Brad, is it normal to be fatigued all the time or just an accepted byproduct of being 40 years old? Running 35 miles a week, biking around 20. Great content. Thanks. Hey, thanks, Brad. I appreciate it. And I got to give props to my mom. My mom's on here. Thanks, Mom, for being here. Got the little birds there. That's good stuff. No, 35 miles. Yeah, it is. When you're running at, I'm 47. I'll turn 48 here in a couple of days. And when you're running at higher volume, you're in a constant state of fatigue. But again, the body does adapt, and it does. I've spent several weeks, about 7 weeks now, over 70 miles, and working up to. I'll probably go up to maybe around 90 to 90, maybe up to close to 100, maybe for a few weeks. But I don't think I'm going to be able to do that for, like I mentioned earlier, for about 4 months. I think that's too much volume. But I think when you're 40 years old, in your 40s, and I like I said, I can attest. Yeah, you do feel like you're fatigued. But again, that's why it's so important to pay attention to your hydration, getting enough sleep, making sure you're. Like I take liquid B12. I take a teaspoon of that just about every other day. Just about every day I take a teaspoon of liquid ferrosol, which is liquid iron, with orange juice because it's vitamin C. Vitamin C will help your body to absorb iron more readily. Because if you run low on ferritin, if you run low on iron, you're going to feel very fatigued, and you're going to have a very hard time to run effectively. And so many runners, especially if you sweat a lot, I sweat a lot. When we're out in the heat and humidity, you can lose a lot of iron that way. And obviously through the diet, if you're not eating enough. And if you take an iron tablet, a lot of athletes take iron tablets, the body will only absorb a small percentage of that. So it's important to, Dr. Joe Vigil, one of the world's top distance running coaches, says all the time, and what he does with his athletes to make sure that their ferritin levels are at optimal levels, excuse me, is to take liquid ferrosol in orange juice and take a 255 or 250 milligram tablet of vitamin C with that. And that will help you to maintain your ferritin levels, and that will make you feel much stronger. So if you're feeling fatigued all the time, and that could be a reason, among many other things. It could be you're dehydrated. Obviously, it's very easy to get dehydrated in these hotter summer months. Even here in Michigan, it's supposed to be in like the 90s next week. But again, on Sunday, I think the high is 80 and then the low is 53. So I'm really looking forward to that. And just for cooler temps. But yeah, it is normal, Brad. It's totally normal to feel that way. Even athletes in their 20s and 30s, when you're doing higher mileage, and in your case, you're doing 35 miles a week, which is solid training. And then on top of that, you're biking 20 miles. When you're doing that consistently over time, you will start to, become calloused by that a little bit. You'll become stronger. It's much more difficult to do that type of training in the first several weeks of a buildup. But when you're several weeks in, you start to adapt to it, but it does get to a point where you feel like, I can tell you from experience that when you're running 70 miles a week, anything over like 70 miles up, all you feel like you're doing is running. Like I'm doing like 10 miles in the morning, 4 to 5 miles in the evening, just about every day of the week. And then I'll do a long run on the weekend. So, and then obviously when you're working at 90 to 100 plus, it even gets even more that feeling like all I'm doing is running. So just hang in there, and you're doing great already. So, Oliver, is there any reason for me, as long as a long distance runner training for marathons, to get track shoes spikes? Aside from getting track PRs, is it any benefit to training? Is it beneficial to do intervals in them? I think I have a pair of the Dragonflies. That's what they are, the Nike Dragonflies. I have those shoes, the spikes for my faster workouts, like repeat 200s, 400s, 600s, and then the Streak Flies for doing like repeat miles, 1600s, thousands, things like that. I think it's okay to have those, just again to get your leg turnover and feeling really strong. But you can still do strong workouts with Streak Flies or with a pair of training flats, racing flats, even like the Alpha Fly 3s or the Vapor Fly 3s. Getting on the track and wearing those. A lot of times it's best if you're training for road races, you can practically do all of your workouts on the roads. And I'm kind of transitioning out from doing workouts on the track, like repeat 800s and repeat thousands, repeat miles. I have this loop. It's exactly 6 miles long, where I do my long runs. I do loops on it, and it's mainly flat for the most part. And I'm just going to start doing my reps on that. But yeah, in terms of if you want to get on the track, you really want to feel fast and work on the really quick stuff, the VO2 max type stuff, then yeah, it's okay to have spikes, but not a necessity. Email, how do you feel about spinning cross training instead of a recovery run? I sometimes do this to spare my legs. Do you recommend that or only when aches and pains arise? Yeah, I think that cross training definitely has its place. I think, especially in the place of a recovery run, rowing, pool running, I think is great too. Especially it's about the closest thing you can find. You get in the deep end of the pool and you just focus on pumping your arms, pumping your legs, and just do the same motion like you're running. But in the deep end of the pool without a flotation device, it's very, very hard because, again, the only way for you to stay above water is for you to pump your arms and to pump your legs, and just like you're running on land. But for recovery, if you wear a flotation device, it's much easier. It's much more relaxed. No stress on the ligaments, no stress on the muscles. And I think that's a great cross-training tool as well. But yeah, spinning, stationary bike, elliptical, any of that type of stuff is good in the place of recovery run for sure. Do you recommend that or only when aches and pains arise? No, like I said, you can use it during whether you're feeling bad or not. Obviously, if you're not feeling good, the best thing is to do is complete rest. But if you have some aches and pains and you want to, not have the dealing with the impact of running on concrete or pavement, then yes, I think that is good. Oh, give me just a second. My daughter here wants out of the room. It's okay. I'm going to say hi to everybody. Everyone, this is Sophie. If you haven't seen her yet, we've had this little cutie pie for 14 years. She's a Maine Coon. Both of our cats are Maine Coons. Hey, cutie. So she wants out of the room, so I got to let her out. Okay, honey. Go play. All right. Marianne, how to build from 80 kilometers a week to 100 kilometers a week in 6 weeks. I'm looking to hold 100 kilometer weeks. What is 100 kilometers? I think that's about 70 miles. Let me see. Okay, yeah, so 62 miles. Yeah, 80 kilometers a week to about 100 kilometers, 62 miles a week, and stay with it for a good amount of time. Some tips to stay healthy and adapt to the mileage safely. See, can you also show your own mileage volume progression of your buildup? Would be very helpful. Maybe a video on building running volume. Oh yeah, definitely. I think that just based on based on even what I'm doing right now, like I said, I've spent like I think it's the past 7 weeks at anywhere from 70 to 79 miles by the end of this week. Um, and it's been a very slow, gradual process to get up to that. So I think more than anything, you really have to be, um, in your case, you want to do it in 6 weeks. Um, I don't think that, in fact, if you're already at 80 kilometers a week right now, and you're trying to get up to 100 kilometers in a week in 6 weeks, I think that is very reasonable. You're not like starting from scratch. Like what I was doing was starting like back in November is when I started training again. Again, for those of you that don't know, I haven't run a marathon in 13. It'll be over 11 years. It'll be over 13 years. Let me see. No, it'll be over 11 years since I run a marathon come Valencia. So it's taken me a long time. It's taken me almost going on a year to get to a point where I can run over 70 miles a week right now. So, and again, it's much more easier to build your mileage and to get really fit if you stay consistent with your preparation. Like in my case, I kind of retired out of the sport for several years and kind of was just jogging and walking every other day just for general fitness. Then I got this crazy idea to run a marathon this year and try to qualify for the World Masters Marathon Championship. So I think that the fact that you're at 80 kilometers a week and you're wanting to go to 100 kilometers a week and hold that, I think definitely adding in a few extra kilometers every week, the next 6 weeks until you build up to that 100 kilometers a week. Once you're there, stay committed, because it's not easy to consistently do that every week. You know what I mean? You look at your training log and you're like, man, I did 15 miles yesterday and now I'm going to match that. And then, I did 18 miles the day after that. Then I did 6 miles and it fluctuates, but it's tough sometimes to hold that consistency. But again, it's what are you trying to do? What's going to motivate you to keep doing what you want to do? This is a great sport, but running fast and teaching yourself to running fast, to be able to do that takes a great deal of effort and time and sacrifice. Running slow, there's not really anything special. I mean, it's important, but it's just about anybody can run slow. But to be able to run fast and to be able to teach yourself to do that over a long period of time and to build that volume and to stay consistent with your volume, that takes that takes some mental toughness and somebody that's very driven. So make sure that you just maintain your goals and maintain your enthusiasm through this, because there's going to be times where you're really questioning yourself what you're doing out there. You know what I mean? So make sure you just keep reminding yourself. But I don't think that 80 kilometers a week to 100 kilometers a week in 6 weeks is not impossible. That's definitely doable. And yeah, I will. I'll mention. I'll mention too. I do mention my volume, and if on the community tab on the YouTube channel, if you check that each week, I usually share a few workouts and mileage, things like that on there. And again, going into Valencia, like I said, my first goal is to try to break 3 hours. I'm pretty sure I can do that right now, but even that will be difficult. It's not a slow time to run 2:59:59. So to run 2:42, which is qualifying standard I have to meet, that is going to take a lot. 6:11 mile pace at 48, that'll take a lot, but I think that it's not possible. So Ben, hey coach, I just wanted to say thank you for all your content. I'm currently using your sub 3 hour marathon program. It's been tough, but going well. Thank you and good luck with your own training. Thank you so much, Ben. I appreciate it. I'm glad it's going well for you. I know, like I said, sub 3 hour marathon pace and trying to run and trying to follow those types of programs, especially the one I created. I mean, it's aggressive. So do the best you can with it. There's going to be some days where you're just going to be off. And then some days you'll be ahead of the pace. And again, even a lot of the only problem with the training programs is that I don't have the temperature factored in. I always talk about the V.02 calculator where it has an advanced features button on there where you can hit that. and it will basically adjust. You can say it's like 85 degrees out. You can plug in 85 degrees and it'll adjust your paces to what you should be running in 85-degree heat versus 55 or 60-degree heat, optimal weather. So yeah, make sure that you're factoring in your recovery and adjusting your paces in the heat. I cannot wait till it starts to cool down. I'm sure you all feel the same. I'm a cold weather runner. I like 40 degrees to 50 degrees, and anything like above 60 degrees Fahrenheit, I don't do very well with. And like today, it was like almost 90 degrees. Tanya, I cannot wait. Let's see, Maxim. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, she's definitely a doll baby. Pedra, is Stride a good device to track my effort in marathon, especially during inclines? Honestly, Pedras, I've never used that, to be honest. So I can't answer that. I don't know if anybody else here has used Stride for tracking marathon effort over inclines. But if you have, definitely share that with Pedras 33. I'd appreciate it. I've never used that device. Maxim, hey coach, I'm coming down from Mexico City for the Chicago Marathon in 7 weeks. How long before the race day would you suggest I fly out to optimize the altitude benefits? Love your 3:30 program, sir. I appreciate it, Maxim. Yeah, and great. The fact you're training in Mexico City, I think that's 7,300 feet elevation, something like that. I know you're way up. So you're you're definitely producing those more red blood cells and doing it the legal way. But I think going into Chicago, getting in there about at least a week before, if you can, if you have the opportunity to get in at least a week going into Chicago, you should be fine. Really, a few days to a week is okay. But yeah, good luck too, Chicago. Hopefully you get a cool day. Chicago's kind of all over the place. It's like some years it's extremely, it's perfect. The weather's like 35 to 55 degrees. 35 would be kind of chilly, but 45 to 55. And then other years it's been very hot. So hopefully you get a really good optimal day. Light winds in Chicago. It's always going to be it is a windy city. So, but yeah, good luck there. And I hope you get under 3:30. Actually, I know you'll get under it. You've picked a great race. You're in a great location. And, but yeah, get in at least a few days a few days prior to the race to prepare. Patrick, coach, I live in Kansas, but saw an armadillo last week on a run. What's the craziest thing you've ever seen on a trail run? Oh man. Craziest thing I've ever seen on a trail run. That's a good question. I spent a lot of time. I spent about my wife and I lived in Colorado Springs for about 7 years. Outside of probably just snakes, seen a lot of snakes over the years in trail runs. When I was in college, we trained in Florida, so I got to see some crocodiles down there on some long runs because Coach Hazen, my collegiate coach, Jack Hazen, he would have us run from the camp we were staying at to the University of Florida's track, and basically on the way out there, there's just crocodiles all over the place along the road. So, but on trails, yeah, that would probably be the craziest thing. I've never seen an armadillo, but yeah, pretty wild. Alabero is 130 half difficult for a beginner? Yeah. I have a race in November. Actually, I can only run 130 pace for like 7 kilometers. Yeah, it is. It's not just difficult for a beginner. It's difficult for just about for a very experienced, very fit runner, not just for a beginner. I mean, you're running, 652 mile pace, 416K pace for 21.1K, and yeah, it's like I said, a lot of athletes can hold goal race pace for certain segments of these races, especially these longer races. But it's like, where are you at the finish line? You can say like, well, I was on, I went through 16K at 127 half marathon pace, but it's like, again, where were you at the finish line? See, it's again, being very patient with yourself in your training, doing a longer buildup, 5 to 6 months, in my opinion, is optimal. 4 months minimum, optimal 5 to 6 months for a half marathon or a marathon. Keeping the enjoyment for what you're doing, because like I said before, it's one thing to just go out and do 1 week at, say, like 50 miles to 60 miles, but do that for several weeks or several months. That's something different. That's something where you really have to be like, okay, I'm going to fully commit to this. I'm not just interested in doing this. I'm going to fully commit. I'm going to give it my best shot, and whatever happens is what happens. And I'll be content with that. I'll be happy as long as I have done my very best in training and I've tested myself. That's kind of the way I look at things. I mean, it's when I was at my peak, when I ran 2:19, when I was 31 for the marathon, and even now at 40, almost 48 here on the 29th, trying to break 2:42. It's very hard to do that. And it's very hard, even for me. I mean, to go out and run 13 miles at 6:52 mile pace. I can do that right now. I can break an hour and 30 for the half right now, but I have to move for that. You can't just go out and jog to break that. So it's tougher. Not only it's very hard for a beginner for sure, because they're just getting involved in the sport and they're building a fitness, and they're working their way to do that. But for somebody that's more experienced, you still have to be in good shape in order to do it. Yeah, absolutely. So, and I know you'll do it too. If you haven't yet, I hope Alabaro, I know you're definitely on your way. YG, based on your training experience, how much can someone progress in the 10K in 6 months? My current PR is 46:40. Okay, nice. Also, never really followed any plans or training structure. Been running for 1 year, and weekly mileage is 25 to 30. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to answer a question like that in terms of like how much time can I drop in 6 months? You're in a race like a 10K or a 10 miler, half marathon or a marathon. These longer races, I mean, it is dropping a couple minutes to several minutes is doable in the 10K. The half marathon and marathon, I mean, you can drop several minutes, like even 30 minutes in a marathon. I trained a guy that had a PR of 3:48. He ended up running, or 3:46. He ended up running 2:58 and breaking the 3-hour marathon. He has 5 kids, works full-time job, never, reached out to me and never thought that he could do it. So, you can drop several minutes off a 10K, a couple minutes to, seconds, several seconds in a matter of 6 months. So it's a matter of like right now you're at 46:40. You got to just continue to train. Like if your goal is to break 40 minutes or to eventually get to 36 minutes or wherever you're currently looking at, you have to spend a little bit of time each week to get accustomed to running at that pace and to get that goal pace to feel to a point where you feel like it's more of a tempo run rather than an all-out effort from like the first mile or 2 miles in. So, and you sound like you got a good base build already. You have, you're running for a year and your weekly mileage is 25 to 30 miles. That's awesome. You've built that stamina, you've built some strength, and you're obviously disciplined enough in order to do it. The next 6 months now, you definitely want to make sure that if you've been training for a year, you make sure that you every like 3 to 4 weeks give yourself a recovery week where you drop your volume a little bit, you maintain your intensity, you still do some intense workouts, where that's one track workout a week, doing a tempo run somewhere in the week, and then a long run. But make sure that you allot some time for recovery, especially if you're training for a long period, 6 months to a year. You can't train that long and not feel stale at times. So make sure that you're giving yourself that recovery so that you can continue to adapt and continue to get faster, and make sure that you feel recovered and you don't feel exhausted from what you're throwing at yourself. Marion, I have to stay relentless with the sport. Fitness takes years to build. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really does. Depending on your goals, what you're doing. This is a sport where literally, great results, not just like good results, but great results usually take years to achieve. It's not something that's going to happen quickly, So, Ronald, you are looking fit and lean. Oh, thanks, Ronald. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I'm putting in the mileage right now. I'm definitely, like I said, some of the workouts. I did a tempo run last week, 5 mile tempo run. I think I averaged 5:42 mile pace for it, and I was pleased with that. And I look at that's kind of where I started off, even at my peak. I would start off doing like 5 mile tempo runs, uh, usually around that pace, sub 6 or close to it, and then I would gradually work that out to around to 12 to 15 miles at that same effort. So I'm gradually trying to work toward that. But yeah, it is what it is, man. It's just one day at a time. But yeah, thanks for your support. I appreciate it. Lean, what 5K shape do you reckon you are currently in? I think if I went all out right now, I think I could run probably something in the 15s. I mean, I don't know. I know if I was really pushed, and I was tapered down, I think I could probably run something 15 something. I don't know in terms of 5K. 5K is so different than the marathon, but I do think that my leg turnover is there to run something in the 15s. Patrick, crocodiles would be crazy. All I get here is deers and raccoons. Yeah, yeah. And there's another. We do have a lot of deer here in Michigan. So I mean, I see a lot of deer on the trails that I run right now. So, but fortunately, it's not. And armadillos, I don't think they're. Heck, I'd have to look, but I don't think they're like super dangerous. They may be though. But snakes, obviously, I don't want to steer clear of snakes for sure. Alabero, how far is a sub 130 half from a sub 3 hour marathon? How far is a sub 130 half from a sub 3 hour marathon? Well, it's a pretty big distance for sure. I mean, if you're breaking 130 for a half is one thing. Breaking 3 hours for the marathon is a whole other thing to do. It's much, but again, once you've done that once you've broken the 130 half marathon barrier, then you have to start thinking like, hey, if I've done this once, I can do it twice. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of consistency, being relentless. If you're not relentless in the sport, and you don't, you're just kind of into it, kind of somewhat interested in running very fast, it's going to be much more difficult. You just have to have, you have to be consistent, and all of you have that. You all are asking the right questions. You all are putting in the work. It's just a matter of being relentless and being fanatical sometimes about what you're doing. If you don't have that, again, you want to make sure that you still be fanatical, be focused, be excited about what you're doing, but don't get so wrapped up in it that if you run a bad race, you just beat yourself over and over again. It's like, man, the failure aspect, nobody likes to fail, but man, sometimes in terms of creating a flow, getting into that flow state where you perform at a level that even you don't believe you could have done, that's going to take some time. That's going to take some trials and efforts along the way. So just, maintain your enthusiasm and stay consistent, and you are going to do great. You're fine. But yeah, the question, the sub 130 half and a sub 3 hour marathon, big difference between those two. But again, focus 100% of your time and focus on first getting under that hour and 30-minute half marathon barrier. And once you've done that, then start thinking about, okay, what do I got to do to break sub 3? More volume, more specific work, a higher focus on my nutrition and my hydration in the longer races, because 13.1 miles or 21K is drastically different than 42K. You know what I mean? So, and really you have to really focus on specific work, specificity, periodization in your training, proper tapering, mental rehearsal, mental relaxation, staying as relaxed as you can for longer periods of time, preparing for a full marathon versus a half. So, Anthenos, hey coach, I was in your stream like 4 weeks ago and asked for some advice. Tried hard to follow and finally ran sub 20. Improved my PR by just over an hour or minute and 30 seconds. That's awesome. Great job. Great job, Anthenos. That's great to hear. 1958, you finally did it. Outstanding. Pedro's 33. This year my time in marathon was 3:30. How can I improve this time if I compete again in the same race next 2025 using your plan? Sometimes, I mean, really, I think that it's just a matter of you can do the same volume, the same build up going into it next year. Sometimes just being a year older, and having put in all of those miles and stayed in that fatigue state, and stressed yourself in training, ran slow enough on the easy days so that you recovered properly, and you continue. I think more than anything, to make a drastic change is just to continue to really work on your staying relaxed in training in terms of your muscle tension. If you're feeling tense, make sure that you're staying relaxed, even when running easy, especially when you're running at faster paces, because again, that's the first thing. Your face tightens up, your shoulders sometimes rise. Just consciously tell yourself to stay relaxed. Running faster next year could be just a matter of making some small changes in the race. Maybe when you ran your 3:30 this year, what did you go out in? Did you go out in what was your first half marathon split? Maybe going out a little bit more conservative and then coming back even in a stronger second half, running a stronger negative split for next year. Continue to work on, just building that volume, building that strength for another year, and just time on your feet and just time in general is going to make you better prepared going into next year's race. So sometimes it's just a matter of just another year of training, another year of doing some 5Ks, some 10 milers, doing some preparatory races leading into the race will pay dividends for you and to help you drop even more time off your current 3:30. Alibero, thanks for all the help, Chief. You rock. Love your videos. Keep doing it. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Mark, hey, Coach, I'm 41 years old, and I have a long-term goal to run a sub 17-minute 5K, currently 21 minutes. Okay. When making a training plan, would you base target times on current fitness or target fitness, or both? A little bit of both, I would. You do want to do some workouts off of your current fitness level, and then gradually, as you go further into a training plan, it should become more intense. The workouts should be more intense. The volume should be higher, and you want to maintain that volume and that intensity up until at least up until 12 weeks out, or up until 2 weeks out. But in my case, I do the 10-day taper. But I think anything from 10 days to 2 weeks tapering, so you keep your volume high, you keep your intensity high, all the way up until just a few days out from your goal race. And, some runners do very well with 3-week, 4-week tapers. For me, and looking at some of, I just base a lot of my training off of Dr. Joe Vihill's training philosophy, and Jack Hazen, my collegiate coach, who was a real close friend of Dr. Vihill. So a lot of our training revolved around very high, moderately to very high volume and very intense workouts up until just a few days, several days leading into a race. So, you're at 21 minutes. It's definitely not possible to eventually get yourself to running under 17 minutes. It's a big drop of time. But if you can, you continue to train over a longer period of time, 5 months, 6 months. And I think in your case, and even somebody that's well prepared, that's run a very competitive, in your case, 21 minutes for 5K. Sometimes that can take months, sometimes it can take years. But again, if it took you years to get to 16:59, you'll quickly forget all of those times where you questioned yourself and you doubted yourself, and where you had those bad races or you had some bad workouts. You'll forget that once you get across the line at 16:59. You're like, man, I finally did it, But it's just a matter of just being, like I said, relentless and not letting up, and still having fun, still enjoying yourself, not getting so wrapped up in running because, again, it's just running at the end of the day. There's more important things in life than running PRs every single race out the door. Some I've seen, and I've done it too in the past. We get so beat up if we don't perform at the level we want. I think of going into Valencia in December. I mean, I could go there and DNF. I could go there and run 340 for the marathon. Or I could go and run under 240. I don't know. But at the same time, whatever happens out there, I'll do the very best I can. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm happy with what I've done as an athlete. I don't have anything to prove to anybody. And again, if you keep that mindset, like, hey, I just want to stay consistent, have a good time with what I'm doing, get the very best out of myself in workouts, and then let that be enough. But just don't, when you're doing your workouts and you're doing your buildup, don't get to a point where you're just wrecking yourself mentally because you're just constantly not satisfied enough. You know what I mean? I know it's important we all want to run fast, but just know that, hey, there's failures along the way in this sport. And as long as you're giving your very best, that should be enough. Not saying you, Mark, but I'm saying in general, just athletes in general, man, it's just running. Alabero, do you recommend taking creatine for runners? I've heard creatine is very beneficial for runners for sure. I do take protein shakes, which are slam full with the powder that I have is like just filled with amino acids and vitamins. So I do take one of those shakes, usually have one of those daily. I have a blender and just usually fill it with some almond milk. Sometimes I'll throw some orange juice in there. I will do a teaspoon of liquid ferrosol in it as well. And then the powder itself. But I've heard creatine is very good for recovery after workouts for sure. So yeah, that's what I would recommend. Definitely nutrition plays a huge part. You have to focus on that, especially in these, whether you're training for an 800 meter, 1600 meter on the track, or you're a high school athlete, 3200 meter, or you're doing these longer races. Nutrition is absolutely vital. So, but yeah, I would recommend for sure creatine for sure. And then, like I mentioned earlier, making sure your iron levels, ferritin levels are at optimal levels. The only way to really find out if you're running low is to get a blood test and ask the physician or the nurse or the PA, ask them, say, hey, I want to find out where my blood ferritin level is at. And if it's anything below 30 nanograms per milliliter, you're running very low. You need to be up above. And I'm not a physician or anything, but so definitely consult with a trained professional. But what I've studied and what I know, optimal levels is anything above really between 30 to 300 nanograms per milliliter. And a lot of athletes are running low on ferritin, and they're questioning themselves. They're saying, man, I just cannot seem to, putting in the work. I'm just not running very fast. Have you had your blood test checked? Have you checked that? So consider that. Mark Sales, by target fitness, I mean my next intermediate goal, sub 20, for example. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, for sure, Mark. Spend some time training at target fitness for sure. And going sub 19, running sub 19, sub 20 for sure is the next step, is the right path. You're not trying to go too aggressive. Yeah, that's good. ROB for a high school runner in between cross country ends in November and track starts in February. What kind of training should they do if they want to run a 440 1600 by the end of track May? High school in between cross country and November track. Again, a great question there. Basically, just what kind of training should be done in the winter between sessions. I mean, in the winter, you really want to focus more on just building your base, but building your mileage up. You can still do some indoor track races as preparatory races for outdoor. Really, indoor is just for during the winter, build your volume. You can still do strides, 5 to 6 50-meter strides 2 to 3 times a week. After the cross country season's over with, and then as you move into your indoor and outdoor track season, just to, again, reminding your legs to feel snappy, to feel quick. And I think building the volume especially during the winter, because again, the weather is not always cooperative in the winter. So just make sure that, you're focusing more on building endurance, and your focus is more on endurance and not specific race pace training during the winter. And then as you move into the indoor track season, which is more still winter, but you can still work on some preparatory races for your indoor season to get you prepared to run that 440, 1600. Maybe doing some 800s, some thousands indoors, I think is good prep. And trying to run those 800s, maybe trying to run the 800 at goal 1600 meter pace. So 220 for the 800 or quicker, eventually trying to get to that point, or running some thousands indoors. And even actually running some 3000s indoors, I think is good prep too, because you're running a little bit further than goal distance here. And that's going to make you stronger for the 1600 meter as well. So anything for $20. I love it. Can your heels be acting like brakes if you're slamming them down rather than gently rolling on them? Can your heels be acting like brakes if you're slamming them down rather than gently rolling on them? I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, good question. I think that when it comes to running, I mean, you really just want to stay as focused as you can in terms of your overall form. Don't try to change up your form. The fitter you get, if you're training over hills too, that's going to help work on your overall form running rather than just running on flats. But I think if you're running down a lot of downhills, then you have to brake. And obviously there's a lot of stress on the ligaments as well as on the heels, your Achilles. But I think a lot of times, a lot of runners do have biomechanical issues. Sometimes we're weaker on the left side than we are on the right side, or vice versa. And I do think strength training can come into play there and help you out in terms of helping your heels to get stronger, obviously. And again, working in the gym or just running over hills and running over different terrains will help you feel stronger on the flats. But I don't know if that answers your question or not there, but I think just, again, working on your overall form and staying relaxed as you can will help you run more economically. And again, braking, your heels acting like brakes if you're slamming down rather than gently rolling on them. Yeah, I just think more than anything, it is to get away from just running. If you're running on a lot of hills that, you're running on a lot of undulations, that can put a lot of stress on your heels and different parts of your body. But I think it is important to try to get on the flat roads, so you don't feel as much stress on those particular parts of your body. If you're doing a lot of hill training. So again, I don't know if that helps you, but hopefully it does. Wessex Marcia, what do you think is harder to achieve, a sub 5 minute mile, or, man, they're both hard. They're both hard. They both have their, I think a sub 3 hour marathon would be slightly more difficult than a sub 5 hour or sub 5 minute mile, just because of the distance and the longevity of that particular race. It's much, much longer. But the mile, it's over quick, but you have to run so fast, under 75-second quarter pace for 4 straight laps. So they're both difficult. Both of those particular goals are not easy. I don't think either one is really, like I said, I think the marathon is slightly harder, but they're both pretty close to being equal to difficult to achieve. Sturgman, running Berlin Marathon in September. My training hasn't been great, and my mental health also not great. Also having doubts if I should even try and beat my PB marathon or just enjoy the day. I think if you just focus on enjoying the experience itself, I think that a lot of times is what will help you run a new PR. Just kind of taking the stress off of, man, if I don't hit this PR, what happens? How about just get as fit as you possibly can, enjoy yourself, do a proper taper, know that you're in a race where you're going to get pulled along. You're going to have somebody there, some female, some male, or both. There's going to be tons of people out there that's going to pull you along and help you get, a new personal best. Just keep reminding yourself you're fit, you're healthy, you can get out, you have the opportunity to get out the door and put in some work. You're able to do something that a lot of people don't have the opportunity to do or aren't willing to do. So take a lot of confidence in that and just be, like I said, be confident in yourself. I think you'll go in. I mean, you're picking a great race. Berlin, I've never run it, but I've always wanted to run that marathon. And I think I envy folks that are picking that one. That's a great race. So, but I definitely enjoy what you're doing going into it. I think if you take the stress off yourself and just say, hey, I'm going to try to get as fit as I possibly can, and whatever happens, happens. Whether I get a PB or I just go out there and have a good time and run a great race, and I'm a few minutes off or whatever, a few seconds off from my PB, I'm gonna have a great time. I mean, new personal records will come. It will occur. It's just a matter of just, not letting up, enjoying yourself and doing the best you can. I know you'll do great out there, Sturgman. Let's see, Coach, my 5K my 5K pace is 257 per K. Okay, that's quick. Well, yeah, 1445. So do you think if I use Alpha Fly 3s, can I run 254 pace per kilometer throughout 5K at that pace? Yeah, I do think that running, I mean, you're already in phenomenal shape. Few runners can run that quick, 1445 for 5K. But I think wearing those shoes, I mean, again, there's no guarantee. I mean, you can wear the Alpha Flies or you can wear any other type of so-called super shoes and still get outrun by somebody that's just wearing regular shoes. But I do think that if you're wearing those, there is technology in those shoes that do have that propulsion effect, especially with that particular shoe, where a small 3-second improvement per K, I don't think is asking too much. I think that you definitely could do that. You definitely could run several seconds quicker than 1445 wearing those versus if you weren't wearing them. So yeah. Wessex, I just ran a 558 mile on 20 miles per week. How long do you think it will take to possibly reach a 459 mile? How much should I increase my mileage? It's tough to answer that. Let's see. Do you think 2 mile race is middle or long distance race? I think the 2 mile race is a middle distance race for sure. At what distance do you think middle distance race becomes long distance races? I think once you get to 10K and up, you're looking at more at long distance races. I really think 5K race. I think 5K is still middle distance. 3K, 2 mile, that's all middle distance. Once you're at 10K, 25K, half marathon, then you're looking at, obviously longer races. Wessex, definitely to get from 558 to 459, that's a massive, massive drop in time because the race is so short. To get from 558 to 459, I mean, reasonable time frame, I think, is a minimum of a year, could be several years. But could you get from 558 to 459? Absolutely. It's not impossible at all. I mean, it could, like I said, it could take I would say a minimum of a full year of training to get to that type of drop. But in some cases, you're looking at maybe 2 to 3 years. But heck, if you got to work 2 to 3 more years to get there, and you finally do it, like I said before, you'll forget all the hard training. All you'll know is, hey, I'm finally a sub 5 minute miler. You know what I mean? So don't let up. But yeah, it's tough to say for sure. And how much should I increase my mileage? I don't think you don't necessarily need to really increase the mileage as much as you do. You need to focus more on the quality. 20 to 40 miles. I think, between 20 to 40 miles a week is sufficient. Really 20 to 30 miles a week is sufficient for many athletes that break 5 minutes for the mile. You don't need to be running a ton of mileage to do that. It's just like, what are you putting into your mileage? How much time are you really spending at sub 5 minute pace? And in your case, I mean, to be able to you can spend a little bit of time running at under 5-minute pace. You can do 200-meter reps at under 5-minute pace. You can do repeat 300s at under 5-minute pace. It might be very difficult for you to run 5-minute mile pace for 1,200-meter reps or for 1,000-meter reps, but doing some repeat hundreds where you're really working on your leg speed, where you're just running all out for 100 meters and maybe doing 10 reps of 100-meter reps, and then with full recovery, where during those 100-meter reps, maybe you're running at like 4:45 mile pace. You can spend several seconds running at that pace. So work on that, and work on your volume. Obviously, work on building up your volume. You're at 20 miles a week is solid, but maybe work towards up to around 35 miles a week, but nothing really that much higher than that. I don't think you need to do that. You need to focus on what amount of time am I spending during those 25 to 30 mile weeks, really focusing on this goal that I have to break 5 minutes. So, but yeah, you're going to do it. It's just a matter of when you're going to do it. You're asking the right questions. You're going after some very difficult times. It's very hard to do that. Sub 5 minutes for a mile. You really have to be very anaerobically fit, aerobically fit, but more important, mentally tough to do that. So, and you're on your way. You've already run a 5:58 mile. It's like, now, okay, I've done 5:58. What's stopping me from running 4:59? What do I have to do that? So it might just be, like I said, a little bit more mileage and time. If you let up just a small amount of time, if you just let up just a little bit, if you're not in this 100%, then really, you're sacrificing, like Prefontaine said, to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. I mean, there is times where you're going to have some doubts. There's going to be times where you have to take a few days off. There's going to be times where you get sick or you're just not running great. Just keep reminding yourself what you're going after and be willing to put in the work for several months, several years, in most cases, several years in order to get what you want. So, all right, guys, appreciate you guys and gals jumping on here. Thank you so much for your questions. You always bring the great questions, and hope you all have a great week coming up. And I'll talk to you all next week. More than likely, usually these streams are either every week or bi-weekly. So, I still want to jump on and help in any way I can, just by, sharing, just us discussing either topics or things that are on our minds about preparing for these races. Sometimes it's helpful to be around, like I said, having some other athletes, asking some kind of questions that you're interested in. And then obviously, just asking back and forth and talking back and forth with me and others can help runners. I do like jumping on here and helping you all. So thank you all for your support of this channel and for all you do. And I wish you guys all the very best coming up in the following week. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay. Take care. And like I said, hydrate well, get plenty of sleep, keep it fun. Don't stress out. Take one day at a time, and know that, hey, this is a sport where great results don't happen overnight. So you're going to get what you want. It's just a matter of time. It's not I can't always answer exactly when you're going to get it. But if you're willing to put in the work and stay consistent for a long enough period of time, you will definitely get your results. So, all right, y'all, take care. Have a great one.